Hello, hello. Today we have the Tiny Marvels palette by Sydney Grace. I think this palette ended up giving me what I was kind of expecting. I was hoping it would prove me wrong, but I feel like I got from this palette exactly what I saw when I opened it up. I feel like I could tell from once I opened this palette in person that these were not shades or colors that were really going to work for me. We did find some good ones in there, but I think overall this palette's going to end up having to be a pass for me. So from what I understand, this palette was put together in collaboration with a YouTuber. I'm not exactly, I can't remember at the top of my head what her name was, but from what I understand, this YouTuber has now passed. I believe she was part of the beauty community in some way. Sorry, I'm not familiar with her, but I ended up picking this palette out because it's one of the few kind of colorful palettes I could see Sydney Grace had. And when I was buying my Mountain Time, was it Mountain Time? My Mountain palette I also reviewed recently, which I really did like that palette. I ended up picking up this one because, like I said, it was one of the, if not, I would say the only real palette with color in it. Sydney Grace seems to do a lot of palettes with very neutral tones, very brown tones, and I'm a colorful person, so I really like color. So that's why I ended up picking Tiny Marvels. You can see in the back it has ingredients. It says Sydney Grace, and Sydney Grace is Mel Thompson. Her name is Mel Thompson, it says, by Mel Thompson and Sydney Grace. They're from Oroville. Oroville's pretty close to, not pretty close, it's a drivable distance. I think it's still like 2 hours away from where I am, but you know, I know where it is. So here we have, this is the outside packaging, and here is the palette. Apart from this palette and that Mountain palette that I got from Sydney Grace, I also got two samples. I guess you could say two singles were also thrown in there. So that was really cool. That's really nice. I'm going to swatch these first before we fully get to the palette, just because I wasn't expecting to get anything. And here we are. So this is Bubblegum. It's just shown as a pressed pigment. It is a pink. It's a really nice kind of pink with a slight shift. I think it's kind of, let's see, let me swatch it again. It's hard to say. Let me bring this light forward. I guess it's more of a silvery shift. Kind of felt like it was like a gold shift yesterday. But basically like a metallic pink. I don't know if it's just this lighting, because yesterday it felt like it had a gold shift, but now under this lighting I feel like it just has a general kind of silvery shift. But this is a really pretty color, and it definitely goes very well with the shades in this Tiny Marvel palette. I've tried these shades out with the Tiny Marvel palette, and I have to say, especially this shimmery pink, because she gave me a shimmery one and then she gave me just a matte shade. Totally goes with the palette, but also incredibly long lasting. So yesterday I wore two different eye looks, and my Sydney Grace eye look with these two single shades were just, it was so long lasting, and I was not expecting that at all. They were still intact. Look at that, how pretty. And then this is shade Picnic Basket, and it's not described as any shade, it just has a number M2IF4PB. So this one doesn't say anything other than those numbers. That's what we have there in the back. But these are really cool. The ingredients for the shades and stuff also on the back, so you're not just getting a shade, you're also getting that information. And it's a cool little packaging. These are some really cool shades that they threw in there for me. But let's go back to Tiny Marvels. Here we have that full palette. And it pretty much looks exactly on the outside as it does in the inside, in terms of the palette and the box. So if we remove that, and we have in here, there is a big mirror in there, and here we have the shades. And so these shades are, I feel like I could tell from pictures, but you can definitely see in person, are very muted. But I decided to give it a chance anyway, because I'm like, well, maybe it'll surprise me, I don't know. And there are some really good shades in here. So I think overall, I don't think my issue too much is with the formula necessarily, although some shades in here could do a bit better. But I don't know if it might just be my skin tone. Maybe these shades aren't really for my skin tone, because we had some wonderful shades like Jewel Bee and Mantis were so beautiful, very pigmented, very pretty. And then I had other shades like is it Bugaboo and Love Bug, that on my eye just looked the same and were kind of muddled. And this spider shade, I feel maybe wasn't the easiest to try and blend out with. I don't know, I just didn't really like that look. In terms of the shimmers, you have a shimmer like this, but I feel like it might be on purpose. This isn't really like your regular shimmer. This feels more of just like, what's it called? Like your eye bone, like your eyebrow, underneath your eyebrow kind of highlight. That this, look at the consistency and the, like the shift of this, and then look at this. Like this feels like just an under eyebrow highlight. It doesn't really particularly, you can tell too, it's a different formula from this to this one. You can see they're kind of similar in color, but not similar in texture, because if I touch this one, texture is completely different. And this is more of a metallic kind of sheen. So if you like more of a metallic, less sparkly, more metallic, which I love this silver shade. Very nice and intense. This might be the palette for you. I really loved Jewel Bee and I loved Mantis. Those were some nice, beautifully, like, I'm not very into like pastels and like these Easter egg colors, but I have to say that these were my favorite in this palette, and they do show up on my skin, so that was very nice. I liked that. But then there was the browns in this palette as well. What is this? We got Tree Hopper, Walking Stick, and Death Moth. I think Death Moth worked pretty well, but these two up here, I don't think really did much for me. I wasn't really wowed. And you know, sometimes a brown's a brown. Which, I can't get that color. You can't really see that color. This one's not too bad. This Walking Stick. Let me see if I can build this other shade up, though. Yeah, that's kind of my skin tone. I was gonna get my skin tone. Well, I'm a little, you know, I'm a little let down with this palette. I'll do a quick little flip this way just so I can hold it properly. But I kind of figured that this palette wasn't going to work for me. The shades in here just don't work very well for my skin tone. These pastel kind of Easter egg shades just don't work for me. They just don't, I don't know, I would say bring out my beauty as I want it to. I prefer things that are either brighter or darker. I feel like that's what works. But if you're perhaps fairer, paler skinned, these might be the perfect shades for you. But I don't really particularly like or need more muted shades. If you're looking for muted shades, these are definitely it. The formula for the shimmers are very interesting. I don't see too much. They're kind of similar perhaps to Give Me Glow. Give Me Glow Cosmetics is, I feel like, the closest in my mind that I can compare the shimmers for Sydney Grace to. So if you like Give Me Glow's shimmers, you'll probably like Sydney Grace's shimmers. But I don't think this really works for me, especially right now. This might have been a really, really fun and cool palette at a certain time. I don't know when this came out, but I feel like this has been around for a while now, because I've seen this palette in so many like palette share videos, declutter videos, and it really truly feels like a lot of people don't want to declutter this palette, not because they think it's a good palette or they like the palette or they like the color story, but simply because it is associated with a YouTuber that passed. And maybe they did know them, maybe they didn't, I don't know. This palette seems to go a lot into like a, well, I just keep this palette for memories, which is fine. That's fine. You can keep whatever, like you bought it. If you want to keep it, regardless of, you know, whether you're going to use it, that's up to you. But I'm just saying, as a viewer, you're just gonna hype up a palette because it's in memory of your friend? Okay, I guess. Like I said, you can do that, and I'm not trying to cause any drama or, you know, pass any negativity upon this Mel person, but it feels a little weird to even bring this palette out during like certain videos that they do, because I'm like, girl, I know you don't like this palette. I've never seen you even talk about this palette, even mention this palette, even bring it up again. You just have it to have it. That's fine. Put it in your shadow box and be done with it. I don't want to say this is necessarily a pass, because I do think there are some good colors in here. I feel like this could be used in a certain type of way, but it's just not the type of way that I do my makeup. I'm 100% ready to just pass this on. I have a new MUA friend And she doesn't know this yet, but I'm kind of been putting some stuff together for her. She's just starting to get into MUA and trying to do this for work, for money. So I think a palette like this, where she can kind of pick and choose what shade she wants to use, is going to be a good like starter palette. So I'm gonna pass this on. This is not for me, unfortunately. I do love the outside. This feels very original. This is probably one of my favorite parts, this outside. I think that this color story does a pretty decent job of kind of mimicking what we see on the outside, but I mean, how often do y'all really see me wear this color story? It's just not exciting to me, and I don't want to keep anything that doesn't feel like it sparks any joy as much as there's a good handful of shades, at least half the palette, where I'm like, this is a really good shade, but putting looks together with so many pastels just isn't for me. It's a pass for me. But, you know, let me know down below what you think of this palette. Have you seen this palette in other YouTubers' videos? Because I'm almost certain you have. But other than that, y'all have a great day.